The South African government is currently investigating the recruitment of young women by Russian companies for what is believed to be drone production. Well, to tell us more about that is Spencer Faragasso, a senior fellow at the Institute for Science and International Security in Washington. Hi, Spencer. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, Linda. Thank you so much for having me.
So this is an extraordinary story. Can you tell us what's happening there?
Currently, Russia has a factory in Alabuga. It's called the Alabuga Special Economic Zone. It's where they're producing Shahed 1 through 6 drones. And producing Shahed 1 through 6 drones is a very labor-intensive and long process. And if they want to be able to mass produce these drones, they need a large, cheap workforce to do a lot of the heavy lifting, which involves, for example, building the airframe, assembling electronics, testing engines, painting the airframe. And so they're developing many different programs to attract people to the Alabuga Special Economic Zone. And one of the key ones that we've been tracking at the Institute for Science and International Security is the Alabuga START program. Alabuga START is a foreign recruitment program that the Alabuga Special Economic Zone operates, that it works to recruit African women to come to Alabuga to build drones. And it's an incredibly deceptive and devious program. And these women are getting involved in the war in Ukraine, unbeknownst to them in most occasions.
And what happens once they're there? Are they allowed to leave? Are they paid properly?
These women are treated fairly poorly. They are relegated to tight quarters, most often living 4 people in bunk beds to a single room, often in an apartment of 2 rooms, so 8 people per apartment. They are promised before they go that they will get a salary, that they will get access to travel and educational opportunities to learn new skills, to see the world, to make friends, to even possibly find love. A lot of their pay is actually deducted from their salary based on their living expenses, so that the salary that they're promised is often not what they actually receive. They face trouble even sending money back because of sanctions. Their whereabouts and their locations are tracked on site because of security risks that Alabuga faces because of the war in Ukraine. They're given a SIM card that tracks their phones. Basically, they're under tight 24/7 security, and these women are on top of the horrible things that the poor living conditions and the lack of general freedom that these women have. They're forced to work long hours at long shifts and potentially being exposed to dangerous and hazardous chemicals. Some women have even complained of rashes and other medical conditions that they've received from interacting with these chemicals that are used to produce the airframe of the Shahed 136. Often, before they arrive, they're told that they're going to work in construction jobs, in IT jobs, get training in hospitality. And when they arrive at Alabuga, they are faced with a rude awakening that, no, very few of them, if any of them, are actually going to do these jobs. And we've estimated at least 90% of them are relegated to the drone production program.
So how did this finally get on South Africa's radar? Because that's the region where I come from, and it is so unusual. It's just something I don't think I've seen anything like this.
Well, Alabuga has been reaching out to many countries around the world, and primarily most of them are in Africa. Alabuga claims to have recruited people from 77 countries around the world. South Africa is one of them. And so Alabuga has had opportunities to interact with people in South Africa, to conduct interviews and meet women at schools. And so many of these women have actually gone to Alabuga itself. And after much reporting has been done in the public media on this issue, particularly related to the women working in the drone factory, the women being exposed to hazardous and dangerous conditions. The drone factory has been targeted and attacked multiple times by Ukraine. And so this has caused quite a bit of an uproar around the world, and particularly in African countries, because these women are being deceived. And South Africa is one of these countries that has decided to take steps to investigate the lengths of this.
I saw one news report that they allege that a member of parliament of South Africa, a politician, have visited the Alabuga Special Economic Zone.
It's unsurprising to learn that because we've seen social media posts on their Telegram, on their VK channel, which is a Russian social media channel, of many different public officials in many different countries going to Alabuga to tour the facilities, to even try to introduce women from African schools and other events to be recruited. So it's unsurprising to see a host of different officials being involved in this.
And why are they choosing women, not men?
Alabuga has a very outdated and frankly sexist view of women. They believe that women are more controllable than, for example, African men. They've stated this publicly, and it's incredibly sad that they're targeting these women because women in many of these countries have a limited access to opportunities in life, limited access to get a good education, to get a job, to live on their own, and to develop themselves as an independent person. And Alabuga is frankly taking advantage of these women, and it's incredibly, incredibly sad. And they believe that they can be controlled, they can be manipulated. They also believe that they're more delicate in their work process, so they're not likely to make mistakes or break things. It's a very strange view.
Well, the South African government have now issued a warning to women, don't be recruited on social media and be aware of this. But do you think South African government and other governments in Africa are doing enough to prevent and stop this?
Well, Alabuga claims that it has recruited at least 8,500 women to come to Alabuga and work in their factories. So I do not think enough has been done. I think that governments need to actively protect their citizens, protect the livelihood of their young people in their countries from being involved in a war. The bottom line is that these women are now involved in a war. They're going to a country that is at war with Ukraine, that is a factory that is building weapons of war and targeting and terrorizing and killing Ukrainian civilians every single day, and let alone the fact that the factories have actually been targeted and people have been injured. To our record, no one has died, but people have suffered injuries from these attacks. And so these women are now in the line of fire, and they don't deserve to be a pawn in Putin's game.
And South Africa has also indicated it might be speaking to the Russian ambassador. So, I'm kind of thinking, what else can be done?
What can be done is for South Africa to inform schools and and potential recruits that they are going to be facing that they're being lied to, that they're going to be facing potential harm, and they can even restrict their actual movement from going to Russia. Russia is a sanctioned country. Alabuga is a sanctioned entity. It's sanctioned by the United States and the EU and the UK and Ukraine. And the fact that these women are going there almost makes them complicit in sanctionable activities. So the South African government and other governments have a responsibility to enforce international laws to prevent their citizens from going there, bringing their expertise and their work skills to produce weapons that are illegal.
So isn't this trafficking?
In some ways, it's borderline trafficking. These women are between the ages of 18 and 22. But the fact that they're being lied to makes it extremely, extremely devious and difficult to process. Um, the they deserve to know the truth of what they're doing, and they deserve to not even be a part of this in the first place. This is a war factory, and they are building weapons, and Russia is exploiting them because they're a cheap labor force.
So what message do you hope to convey through your research and through, doing interviews like this one?
We hope to convey that the war in Ukraine matters, that the lives of these women matter. It matters because we, and all freedom-loving people, need to understand that no one should be a pawn in Putin's war game to illegally invade another country, to produce weapons of war that are actively killing and maiming and terrorizing Ukrainian civilians and Ukrainian soldiers who are trying to defend their country. No one should be a part of this. And the women that are being sent to Alabuga deserve to live good lives, deserve to get a quality education, and they are not going to receive that by going to Alabuga. The world needs to be aware of this, and countries need to take steps to prevent their citizens from going to Russia to support Russia's war efforts. And at the end of the day, when women go there, when students go there, they're going to be complicit in this effort.
And I'm just thinking, what about organizations like SADC and the OAU? Are they the Organization for African Unity? Are they doing anything?
We haven't tracked that.
Should we warn women, put it out on social media, look at this. You know what happens, and they should be wary of being recruited by Russian companies.
Absolutely. Women in Africa and other places that Alabuga is actively recruiting need to be aware that they're being lied to. They're not getting an education there. They are not being provided with the salary expectations that they are promised. They are being coerced into dangerous work conditions. They're being forced to work long hours. They're living in tight quarters with many other people. And the odds of them actually finding love is very low. And so the reality is that when they go to Alabuga, they're being lied to and they're not getting what they're promised. These people deserve a real education. They deserve a real job that provides them with good skills. And Alabuga is not providing that. If anything, Alabuga is putting them in harm's way and exposing them to a war that they could die in.
The Russians also use North Koreans. This is just a different way of using even more vulnerable people in their war effort.
Yes, it really is. And it's a shame. It really exposes the lengths that Russia is willing to go to fuel its war. They don't value human life, and they're willing to do whatever they need to do to produce weapons to win this war and to pressure Ukraine. And it really shows that they're targeting some of the lowest denominator people in the world, which is incredibly unfortunate because these people do not deserve to be in this circumstance.
So how long have you been tracking this?
We've been tracking it since Alabuga became publicly, since the world became aware of Alabuga. We were the first organization to actually identify the Alabuga Special Economic Zone as a potential location for a Shahid 136 production factory. We got tipped off on this by a Wall Street Journal article that said that Iranian officials went to the city of Yelabuga. No information was provided on a potential location, and we investigated it heavily, and we identified the Alabuga Special Economic Zone. So that was in February 2023 that we started doing this. And over the time, we've developed numerous reports on the Shahid 136, its use in Ukraine, the production and supply chain of the drone, and how they're recruiting and attracting workers to the site. And the learning about the Alabuga START program in particular was incredibly shocking to us. Because we haven't seen anything like it before in terms of a foreign young labor population coming in and building a relatively sophisticated weapon.
Ooh, Spencer Faragasso, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed talking with you.